it is clear that we are talking about one of the most ambitious nation-building projects in American history. To have to rebuild a place burned to the ground by supposedly our foreign ally. We have to facilitate the ethnic cleansing of this territory, use U.S. policy to force other countries to take that population, and then we have to pay for it. I mean, I don't remember this being a significant part of the campaign, or, put aside the anti-war stuff. Just think about it at a basic level. This whole idea of make America great again, when we're talking here about a unilateral nation-building program for a foreign nation, for a foreign population. It's like on every level, it is absolute madness. And
on probably the most sensitive, some of the most sensitive land on the entire planet.
I genuinely, I don't know where this shit comes from. What concerns me the most is, like you said, the apologia that we largely see from MAGA media and others who are just like, because we saw this in Afghanistan. Everybody just turned, all of a sudden, when we withdrew from Afghanistan, it's like, oh, well, we should have held on to Bagram and all of this. And then you ask Trump and you're like, well, we actually should have kept troops there the whole time. You're like, okay, so you didn't actually see
You never meant it. Yeah, well, and the other thing is, like, the position that, this is the opening negotiating position.
Yeah, to what end? That's what I'm saying.
Who are you negotiating with also?
For what purpose? Like, what are we trying to get out?
So what is the end negotiating position? Like, even if you buy that, which I don't particularly buy that, especially at this point, he said it, very intentionally said it. He's been asked now multiple times, keeps reiterating it, making it clear that this is what we're going to do, and Palestinians, world people will be allowed to go there, but Palestinians will never be allowed to return. We're going to keep it not temporarily, permanently. It's just like, I don't know what makes you think that this is some casual first bid proposal. And also, even if you think that, like, where do you think that this is ultimately going? It's absolutely one of the most destructive, immoral, and dumbest ideas I have ever heard in my entire life. No part of it makes sense. And to go back to the King of Jordan being here, Trump has threatened them with tariffs, number one, which I don't think would really do. I mean, it would cause them pain, but I don't think it would move them at all, because both Egypt and Jordan see this very much as an existential issue for their own power and regime. And he has also threatened to cut off the aid, the very large dollar amounts of aid proportionally that we give to Egypt and Jordan, and seeming to not understand, like, the whole reason we give those countries that much aid, it's basically like a bribe for them to be nice to Israel. Mm-hmm. That is the purpose of that aid.
Yeah, it's part like, of the Camp David Accords.
Yeah, exactly.
Where we're like, we give them both equal amounts. I actually don't think it's a bad idea. You're like, hey, cut it out. And actually, if you look at the policy, it was very successful for many years. What we're effectively saying is that now we will move away from peace in the Sinai, which look, you can make fun of it for all you want. It stopped. There were two wars in the 1960s and 1970s that U.S. policy largely was able to just buy off the two sides and say, we're not going to do this. I would say that's decent, 50 years of no fighting between those two nations, especially because that's an existential threat to the Middle East, and obviously with our current political system that would have drawn us in to the conflict. Now we're talking about leveraging and moving away from that Camp David process specifically to facilitate the expulsion of all Gazans so that we can own it, occupy it, pay for its rebuilding. To what end? That's why I reject this negotiating thing. The negotiation only makes sense in terms of, I'm going to stop the conflict. The only way to stop the conflict is to say, okay, Israel, Hamas, we got to figure out a way that this is going to work. And now we have a lot of leverage, actually, on both sides. But the reason why I'm even more concerned is that all roads currently lead to some disastrous intervention. So Donald Trump was asked yesterday about the hostage deal, and we're going to talk a little bit about, there's been a breakdown in the ceasefire. I think saying that we're going to facilitate the expulsion of Gaza probably doesn't help for the people who live there.
Sure.
But now he is saying that if we do not release all the hostages by Saturday at 12 to Hamas, I will cancel it, all bets are off, and let hell break loose. Let's take a listen.
Should the ceasefire then be off?
Well, I would say this, and I'm going to let that be because that's Israel's decision. But as far as I'm concerned, if all of the hostages aren't returned by Saturday at 12 o'clock, I think it's an appropriate time. I would say cancel it and all bets are off and let hell break out. I'd say they ought to be returned by 12 o'clock on Saturday, and if they're not returned, all of them, not in drips and drabs, not 2 and 1 and 3 and 4 and 2. Saturday at 12 o'clock, and after that, I would say all hell is going to break out, and I don't think they're going to do it.
So what does that mean? What hell can be unleashed that has not yet been unleashed? And actually, I think I have an idea, which is Israel has not held back anything other than a nuclear weapon. Can we agree on that?
Yeah.
So what's left? America. Okay, so we're going to bomb Gaza? Great image to be able to see. To what end? So that foreign hostages can get released, even if they're dual citizens. I don't remember us ever doing that before. For what purpose?
Well, also those hostages are in the zone that all hell will be breaking loose in as well. And we know that hostages have been killed through IDF operations already.
According to the released hostages, not, from others.
Yeah.
They're the ones who are saying that. So not,
exactly. We're not making this up.
Yeah.
This is confirmed. So it's, I don't even know what to say at this point. But number one, as you were pointing out, Sagar, what motivation does Hamas have to stay in a deal when you openly have the President of the United States saying, what we're going to do is complete ethnic cleanse, get every Palestinian out of the Gaza Strip, and personally own the territory. Yeah. That kind of strips any kind of goodwill reason why you would continue in a deal with these people. And, the other piece is, of course, the way that the media frames this is all, Hamas is backing out of the deal, blah, blah, blah. But also, Israel has never really technically abided by the terms of the ceasefire. They never have had a total cessation of violence. Jeremy and our friends over at DropSite have done an effective job of tracking the fact that they've continued to shoot and kill Palestinians even after the ceasefire. The Hamas also says, and we don't have verification of this, but this is their side of the story, that some of the aid provisions, requirements for humanitarian assistance that were part of the deal have also been violated as well. So they're saying Israel is in breach and we're not going to continue to go forward. But I do think that really the governing factor here is, what incentive do you have to continue in a deal with these people when they're openly broadcasting? Number one, Bibi has always openly broadcasted basically there is not going to be any phase 2. We're going to go back to bombing as soon as phase 1 is over. And number 2, the United States of America, which really holds all the cards here, let's not pretend it's otherwise, is we've come up with a final solution for this territory. And anyone who thinks, if you actually think Palestinians are just going to leave the Gaza Strip and not fight and not lay down their life, as they have for decades now, to try to preserve the homes that they have there and the land that they have there. You have got to be the dumbest person on the planet if you actually think that is the case. And you don't have to be an expert in, Middle Eastern relations or the history of the Israel-Palestine conflict to know that that is the dumbest thing you could possibly believe, that people are just because Trump says so going to be oh, you're right. Now we'll give up our multi-decade-long resistance struggle to go and live in the desert in Egypt or Jordan or whatever. Utterly preposterous.
Yeah, let's put B5 up there on the screen. It says Hamas says it will delay the release of more hostages, quote, putting the Gaza ceasefire at risk. Now, what has happened is that we have B7. Can we put that there on the screen? In response, the IDF is saying that they're, quote unquote, being on high alert, complete violation of the ceasefire deal and a hostage deal. It just looks like, it points to it looks like it would just lead to a resumption of the war. And, obviously that's something that the world and all has dealt with. But with the subtext of Trump here saying the United States is going to take over Gaza, you can just imagine. This is exactly what happened back in 2005. What took Iraq from a intra-country sectarian conflict into a global magnet for jihad was by making it into a fight against the American evil empire, by drawing every global jihadist from across the world to Syria and others. That's what turned it into this horrible civil war and war against our own soldiers. I foresee exactly the same thing happening here. There are, however many people are alive, 1.7 million. I think we could reasonably assume that hundreds of thousands will fight to stop from being expelled from the territory that they think is theirs.